My husband's sister Harriet looked me dead in the eye and said, "Easter dinner is your responsibility now, Gemma. 40 people, complete menu, and I expect perfection." I smiled sweetly and replied, "You're absolutely right. I'll handle everything." 3 hours later, I was boarding a flight to Paris with my signed contract to become head chef at Le Bernardin's new London location. But let me tell you how we got to that moment, because the audacity didn't happen overnight.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Tell us a duh.
The text message arrives at 6:23 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in February, jolting me awake with the aggressive buzz of someone who believes their emergencies constitute your obligations. Family meeting tonight, 7 p.m. sharp. Important Easter planning. The sender, Harriet Sinclair, my husband Miles' younger sister, who somehow appointed herself the family's social coordinator despite having the organizational skills of a caffeinated squirrel. I slip out of bed quietly, leaving Miles snoring peacefully under our Egyptian cotton sheets. The man could sleep through a tornado, which explains how he's managed to miss 4 years of his sister's increasingly entitled demands on my time, energy, and culinary skills. Our kitchen gleams in the early morning light, all marble countertops and commercial-grade appliances that I insisted on when we renovated last year. Miles had questioned the expense then, joking about my restaurant fantasies, not realizing that my culinary ambitions were far more serious than he understood. The coffee maker hums to life as I check my phone again. 3 more messages from Harriet, each escalating in urgency like she's coordinating disaster relief rather than planning a holiday meal. Need to discuss menu options. This year needs to be special. You understand how important this is for the family. The family, as if I wasn't born into it, but rather adopted it through marriage, and must constantly prove my worthiness through elaborate displays of domestic servitude. My laptop sits closed on the kitchen island, containing an email I've read 17 times since it arrived last week. Gemma Clements, Executive Chef Position, Le Bernardin, London. Confidential. The subject line that could change everything, hidden behind a password-protected folder Miles has never thought to ask about. The irony isn't lost on me. While my husband's family sees me as their personal caterer, Michelin-starred restaurants are competing for my signature on contracts that would make my current life look like playing house. Miles appears in the doorway, hair standing at impossible angles, wearing the bewildered expression of someone who's been unconscious for 8 hours. "Morning, love. You're up early." "Harriet called a family meeting," I say, handing him coffee in the mug that reads "World's Greatest Husband," a gift from his mother that feels more aspirational than accurate these days. His face doesn't register concern or curiosity about what emergency requires gathering the Sinclair clan on a Tuesday evening. Instead, he nods absently while scrolling through his phone, already mentally at the office before his feet have fully touched the kitchen floor. "Probably just holiday planning," he mumbles. "You know how she gets about these things." I do know. That's exactly the problem. The Sinclair family meeting convenes in Harriet's pristine living room, where everything is beige and expensive and chosen to photograph well for her lifestyle blog. She's positioned herself behind the marble coffee table like a CEO addressing shareholders, with Miles' parents flanking her on the cream-colored sectional and his brother Henry lounging in the designer armchair that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Miles and I occupy the smaller love seat, relegated to the back row of what's clearly become Harriet's show. She's dressed for the occasion in head-to-toe Gabriella Hearst, her blonde hair styled in those effortless waves that require 2 hours and a professional blowout. "Thank you all for coming," she begins, as if we had a choice. "As you know, Easter is our family's most important tradition, and this year needs to be absolutely perfect." Her eyes land on me with laser precision. "Gemma, your contributions to our holiday meals have been remarkable. Mother Peters has been bragging about your Christmas dinner to the country club for months." Miles' mother, Angel Peters, nods enthusiastically from her perch beside Harriet. "Absolutely divine, dear. That lamb was restaurant quality." Restaurant quality, if only they knew how accurate that assessment really was.
Which is why, Harriet continues, her voice taking on that particular tone people use when they're about to ask for massive favors while pretending they're offering opportunities, we've decided to make this Easter truly memorable. 40 guests, including the Watsons from the village, the entire board of Miles Firm, and Mother's Book Club. My coffee cup freezes halfway to my lips. 40 people? She's discussing a dinner party for 40 people with the casual air of someone ordering takeout. Naturally, we'll need a complete menu, appetizers, main courses, sides, desserts, wine pairings, the full experience. Her smile is bright and predatory. And since you're so extraordinarily talented in the kitchen, we thought this would be the perfect showcase for your skills. The room falls silent, except for the soft tick of Harriet's antique mantel clock. Everyone is looking at me expectantly, as if she's just offered me the Nobel Prize rather than a weekend of unpaid labor that would challenge the staff of a professional restaurant. When you say we, I begin carefully, I assume you mean I'll help with the preparation, shopping, cooking, and service? Harriet's laugh tinkles like expensive crystal being dropped on marble. Oh, Gemma, you're so thorough with planning. Of course we'll all contribute in our own ways. I'll handle the table settings and flowers, Mother will oversee the guest list coordination, and the men can manage wine selection. Henry pipes up from his chair. I've already researched some excellent vintage options that would pair beautifully with whatever menu you create. The division of labor becomes crystal clear. They'll handle the decorative, social, and enjoyable aspects of hosting 40 people. I'll handle everything that requires actual work. The budget? I ask, though I suspect I already know the answer. We'll split all costs equally, naturally, Harriet says. 5 ways, very manageable for everyone. So I'll be providing the labor and paying for 1/5 of ingredients to feed 40 people I didn't invite to a party I didn't want to host. Miles squeezes my hand, and I can feel his relief radiating through his fingers like heat from a warming stone. His family has found their solution, and it doesn't require any effort from him beyond selecting wine and nodding approvingly when they praise my natural gifts. The squeeze feels like gratitude mixed with ownership, as if he's thanking me for being the perfect resource his family can deploy whenever they need impressive results without professional costs. Gemma will do an amazing job, he says, his voice carrying the pride of someone taking credit for achievements they had nothing to do with. She always does. Always. The word that encapsulates years of pattern I'm only now beginning to recognize. Christmas dinner for 16 that I planned, shopped for, prepared, and served while they discussed my intuitive understanding of flavor. Thanksgiving, where I spent 3 days perfecting a traditional American menu I'd never attempted because Harriet wanted to impress her American exchange student friend. Miles' birthday party last year, where I created a 7-course tasting menu that had their guests asking if I'd hired a professional caterer, while Miles accepted compliments for choosing such a talented wife. Always. Wonderful, Harriet claps her hands together like she's sealing a business deal that heavily favors her position. I'll send you the guest list and dietary restrictions by Thursday. We'll need the full menu by Sunday for approval. Approval? As if I'm a caterer submitting proposals rather than a family member being voluntold to provide free labor that would cost thousands if they hired professionals. The timeline is aggressive, even by commercial standards. Most caterers require weeks of planning for events this size, not days. I should mention, Angel Peters adds, her voice carrying that particular tone wealthy women use when delivering non-negotiable requirements disguised as helpful suggestions, the Watsons are quite particular about presentation. Chloe Watson specifically mentioned how impressed she was with the plating of Le Bernardin when they dined there last month. She has such a discerning palate. My fork pauses halfway to my mouth. Le Bernardin. The same restaurant whose London expansion offer sits encrypted on my laptop at home, where actual chefs are paid 6-figure salaries for creating the kind of presentations Angel expects me to duplicate for free.
I'm sure Gemma can manage something equally sophisticated, Harriet says, examining her manicured nails with the casual confidence of someone who's never plated anything more complex than cheese and crackers for her Instagram stories. You have such natural talent in the kitchen. It's like you were born knowing how to cook.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Natural talent. As if 5 years at Culinary Institute, 3 years working under Michelin-starred chefs, and countless hours perfecting techniques they'll never understand were just happy accidents of genetics. As if the molecular gastronomy equipment hidden in our basement, the professional-grade knives I've collected piece by piece, and the technique books I study like textbooks were just coincidental purchases rather than deliberate skill development. Henry leans forward, warming to the topic now that his contribution has been reduced to selecting wine bottles from online catalogs. Perhaps we could incorporate some modern techniques. I saw this fascinating molecular gastronomy demonstration on a cooking show last week. Those little spheres that burst with flavor looked so simple to make. Oh, yes, Angel chimes in, her enthusiasm building around techniques she's never attempted. Those little caviar pearls that pop on your tongue. So trendy. And what about that foam stuff? Everything looks so professional when there's artistic foam involved. They're discussing molecular gastronomy and foam preparations like party tricks rather than sophisticated culinary disciplines requiring specialized equipment, years of training, and understanding of food chemistry that can go spectacularly wrong in inexperienced hands. Equipment I happen to own, hidden in our basement, purchased piece by piece over the past 2 years, while Miles assumed I was going through an expensive hobby phase. The timeline seems quite tight, I venture, hoping to inject some reality into their escalating fantasy. 6 weeks to plan, shop, prep, and execute a meal for 40 people, with Easter falling on the busiest weekend for restaurants and specialty food suppliers. Most professional caterers book this kind of event months in advance. Harriet waves her hand dismissively, her gesture carrying the casual arrogance of someone who's never had to execute her own ambitious plans. I'm sure you'll manage beautifully. You're so organized and efficient with these things. Organized, efficient. The words they use when they mean willing to handle everything they can't be bothered to understand. Words that acknowledge my capability while simultaneously diminishing the skill and effort required to achieve the results they expect. Of course, we'll want to document everything, she continues, pulling out her phone with the practiced motion of someone whose life revolves around content creation and social media engagement. This will make fantastic material for my lifestyle blog, Easter Entertaining, a family affair. I can already see the engagement potential. Maybe even pitch it to some magazines as a feature about maintaining traditions in modern families. My labor, their content. My expertise, their social media boost. My weekend consumed by cooking for people I barely know, while they collect praise for hosting such a sophisticated gathering, and credit for preserving family traditions I'll be too busy creating to actually enjoy. Miles nods along enthusiastically, completely missing the dynamic that's playing out in front of him. His family has learned they can assign me massive projects with minimal notice, and he'll not only fail to object, but actively encourage my compliance. In his world, this is how families work. Everyone contributes their natural abilities for the greater good. And somehow, my natural abilities always require significantly more time, money, and skill than anyone else's contributions. The drive home from Harriet's passes in uncomfortable silence, with Miles humming along to the radio while I mentally calculate the hours required to execute their vision. 40 people, 6 courses, dietary restrictions I haven't even seen yet. Professional-level plating, they expect, because they name-dropped Le Bernardin like it's casual dinner conversation. You seemed quiet tonight, Miles says as we pull into our driveway. Everything all right? I turn to study his profile in the dashboard light. Miles, do you understand what your sister just asked me to do? Plan Easter dinner?
He shuts off the engine and gives me that confused expression he wears when I suggest his family's requests might be unreasonable. You love cooking, Jem, and you're brilliant at it. She asked me to single-handedly cater a dinner party for 40 people, to plan, shop, prep, cook, and serve a multi-course meal that would challenge a professional restaurant staff.
His brow furrows like I'm speaking a foreign language. But it's family. We all pitch in. Your contribution is selecting wine, Miles. Henry gets to research bottles online. Your mother manages a guest list. Harriet arranges flowers and takes photos for her blog. I get to work for 3 days straight producing restaurant-quality food for people who will judge every detail. He reaches over and squeezes my shoulder with the patronizing gentleness of someone who thinks I'm overreacting to a generous opportunity. Sweetheart, you're making this sound harder than it is. You cooked for 20 at Christmas, and it was incredible. 20, not 40, and Christmas dinner was traditional British fare, not the sophisticated molecular gastronomy Henry casually suggested, or the Les Bernardines Revel presentation Angel expects. What if I said no? I ask, genuinely curious about his response. Miles laughs, the kind of automatic chuckle people produce when confronted with genuinely absurd suggestions. You can't say no to Easter dinner, Jem. It's tradition. Tradition, the word they use to make personal preferences sound like religious obligations. I could have other plans, I press, work commitments, prior engagements, anything that would make catering this event impossible. His smile falters slightly, replaced by the expression he gets when clients make unreasonable demands he'll have to manage. What kind of plans could be more important than family? There it is, the assumption that underlies every request, every expectation, every casual assignment of massive labor, that nothing in my life could possibly be more significant than serving their needs. Maybe I have opportunities I haven't mentioned, I say carefully, testing the waters of honesty. Like what? He's genuinely puzzled, as if the concept of me having independent professional aspirations is foreign to his understanding of who I am. I could tell him about Le Bernardin, about the executive chef position that would place me among London's culinary elite, about the salary that would dwarf his banking bonus, and the recognition that would establish me as someone other than his family's personal caterer. Instead, I watch him dismiss my hypothetical possibilities with the casual confidence of someone who's never had to question whether their dreams matter to the people who claim to love them. Never mind, I say, opening the car door. You're right, it's just Easter dinner. The house feels different when we return from Harriet's announcement, like I'm seeing our life through new eyes that notice things I've been trained to overlook. The kitchen that once represented shared dreams of entertaining and creativity now looks like a professional workspace that's been reduced to producing family meals and free catering services. The commercial-grade range I fought for during renovation, justifying the expense as an investment in our entertaining lifestyle. The walk-in pantry designed for serious cooking and bulk storage. The temperature-controlled wine cellar that stores bottles I select but never get credit for choosing. Miles heads upstairs for his nightly routine of checking emails and reviewing tomorrow's client presentations, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the encrypted folder on my laptop that contains possibilities I've been afraid to examine too closely. I pour myself a glass of the Sancerre he doesn't know I chose specifically for its mineral complexity and Loire Valley terroir, and settle at the kitchen island where I've spent countless hours perfecting techniques his family dismisses as natural talent. The Les Bernardin email opens with the soft blue glow of life-changing opportunity disguised as professional correspondence. Executive chef, London location, opening in 8 weeks. Salary, £180,000 annually, plus profit-sharing arrangements that typically add another £40,000 to £60,000 in the first year. The kind of position culinary school graduates dream about for decades, the pinnacle of professional achievement that validates every sacrifice made in pursuit of culinary excellence. The job description reads like a fantasy written specifically for my skill set and career aspirations. Complete autonomy over menu development and seasonal planning, leadership of 12-person kitchen brigade including 3 sous chefs, 2 pastry specialists, and dedicated garde-manger station, access to premium ingredient suppliers and relationships with local farms for seasonal sourcing,
creative freedom to establish London Location's culinary identity within Le Bernardin's standards of excellence.
My phone buzzes with a text from Harriet, puncturing my professional daydream with the reality of amateur expectations. Forgot to mention, we'll need the menu to accommodate 3 vegans, 2 gluten-free guests, 1 pescatarian, and mother's friend who's doing that new alkaline diet thing. Nothing too complicated, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Also thinking we should add some vegetarian options beyond the sides, just to be safe. Nothing too complicated. 40 people with 6 different dietary restrictions, and she considers this a minor detail worth mentioning as a casual afterthought via text message. I screenshot the message and add it to a folder I've started calling documentation, though I'm not entirely sure yet what I'm documenting it for. The Le Bernardin contract sits open in another browser tab, offering everything Harriet's request lacks. Executive autonomy over menu development instead of accommodation of random dietary restrictions mentioned via text. A team of 12 trained professionals instead of solo execution while others arrange flowers. Access to suppliers most home cooks never dream of reaching instead of panicked shopping at local stores hoping they stock specialized ingredients. Recognition in an industry that measures success by precision, creativity, and the kind of technical skill I've been developing in secret for years. James Beard Award nominations, Michelin star potential, features in culinary magazines that matter to people who understand what we do. My name on menus, my techniques credited in food media, my innovations discussed by professionals who appreciate the complexity in executing seemingly simple dishes. Another text from Harriet arrives while I'm reading contract details about creative control and profit sharing. Also, Chloe Watson mentioned she's bringing her food photographer friend who works for magazines. Apparently, she's working on a piece about holiday entertaining for Tatler, or maybe Country Life. Perfect opportunity for the family to showcase our hospitality traditions. Think of the exposure possibilities. Our traditions. Their credit. My work providing content for magazines I'll never be mentioned in, photographed by professionals who will capture my plating techniques without knowing my name or training. The exposure will benefit everyone except the person whose expertise makes it possible. The laptop screen dims automatically as I sit motionless, and my reflection appears ghost-like over the contract terms. I look tired. Not just end-of-day tired, but the deep exhaustion that comes from constantly producing excellence for people who see your expertise as a convenient family resource rather than a professional asset worth respecting and compensating. Upstairs, I can hear Miles brushing his teeth with the electric toothbrush that times his routine down to the regulation 2 minutes. Everything in his life operates on predictable schedules and measurable outcomes, patterns that never include questioning whether the people around him might have ambitions beyond supporting his family's social calendar and lifestyle maintenance. The Sancerre tastes different tonight. Not just the familiar notes of citrus and minerality, but something that speaks to possibilities I've been afraid to acknowledge. Freedom from expectations that diminish rather than celebrate expertise. Recognition from people who understand the difference between natural talent and years of dedicated training. Compensation that reflects the actual value of professional-level skills rather than family obligation disguised as opportunity. I close the laptop without responding to either the contract or Harriet's messages. But for the first time since Christmas dinner, when I spent 3 days creating a meal his family devoured in 40 minutes while discussing my natural gifts, I don't delete the offer immediately. Instead, I save it to a new folder labeled Options and pour myself another glass of wine that tastes like freedom I'm not sure I'm brave enough to claim yet. Thursday morning arrives with Harriet's promised guest list, delivered via email at 5:47 a.m. like she's coordinating a military operation rather than planning a family meal. The subject line reads, Urgent, Easter planning details, please confirm receipt ASAP. I open it while making coffee, expecting a simple list of names and basic dietary information. Instead, I find a 6-page document that reads like a catering contract written by someone who's never actually hired a caterer, but has watched enough cooking shows to feel qualified to make professional demands. Guest profiles and expectations, the document begins, followed by detailed descriptions that make my blood pressure spike with each line I read. The Watsons. William and Chloe, very sophisticated palates, recently returned from 3 months touring Michelin-starred restaurants across France and Italy. Expect authentic French techniques and presentation comparable to Le Bernardin, where they dined last month. Chloe has mentioned she'll be mentally comparing the experience to their recent meal at 11 Madison Park. William has severe shellfish allergies. Ensure zero cross-contamination as he carries an EpiPen. Le Bernardin again. They're using my potential employer as the benchmark for quality they expect me to deliver for free, while adding medical liability that could literally kill someone if I make a mistake. Judge Morrison, Harriet's former father-in-law, retired High Court judge, extremely traditional tastes, but appreciates innovation when executed flawlessly. His approval carries significant social weight in local circles and could influence Miles' partnership prospects at the firm. Please ensure his dietary restrictions: no shellfish, minimal salt due to hypertension, diabetic-friendly options don't compromise the sophistication of his courses. He's known to comment publicly on social gatherings. They want me to impress a retired judge whose opinion will determine their social standing and potentially Miles' career advancement, while accommodating serious medical restrictions they've framed as minor menu adjustments. The list continues for 40 names, each entry more demanding than the last. A food critic from The Telegraph, who's apparently attending as someone's +1, though Harriet hasn't clarified whose guest she is or whether she knows she'll be reviewing an amateur event. 3 members of the local council, whose wives compete over who hosts the most impressive gatherings. Miles' entire firm leadership, including the senior partner, who determines promotion decisions, and the managing director's wife, who runs the most exclusive charity in the district. Lady Pemberton, council chairwoman, expects organic, locally sourced ingredients with detailed provenance information. She'll inquire about farming practices and ethical sourcing, very vocal about her standards on social media. Dr. Reginald Hayes, food critic, unaware he's attending a family gathering rather than a professional event, treats every meal as potential review material, has published scathing critiques of establishments that failed to meet his standards. This isn't a family Easter dinner. It's a professional networking event disguised as a holiday celebration, with my cooking serving as the centerpiece for their social advancement and career prospects. I'm being set up to perform for people who will judge my work by professional standards while I operate without professional resources, support, or compensation. The final 3 pages contain Harriet's menu suggestions, which read more like commands, wrapped in cheerful language designed to mask their impossibility. For appetizers, perhaps something with white truffle. I know it's expensive, but Mother mentioned how much the Watsons enjoyed truffle dishes in Perigord. Nothing too simple. We want to set the right tone from the beginning. Maybe those little spherical things that burst with flavor. I saw them on MasterChef and they looked divine. Truffle appetizers for 40 people with molecular gastronomy elements? I calculate the cost, roughly £400 just for white truffles, not including the specialized equipment needed for spherification, the agar-agar, sodium alginate, and calcium chloride required for molecular techniques. She's casually requesting techniques that require years of training and thousands of pounds in equipment. For the main course, I was thinking that French lamb you did so beautifully at Christmas, but elevated for this crowd, perhaps with those little vegetables arranged so artistically, and maybe incorporate some of that foam you see in fancy restaurants. The presentation was absolutely restaurant quality at Christmas, and we need something even more impressive. She's describing a dish that took me 6 hours to prepare for 8 people, scaled up to 40, with hand-carved vegetables that require individual attention and timing precision, plus foam components that need specialized equipment and split-second timing to maintain stability. And for dessert, something truly spectacular. I've seen those desserts on cooking shows where they break open a chocolate sphere and flowers cascade out. So dramatic and perfect for photos. Or maybe one of those gravity-defying things where chocolate seems to float in midair. The photographer will love capturing something that artistic. A chocolate sphere dessert with sugarwork engineering that requires specialized molds, perfect tempering techniques, and architectural understanding of structural balance.
for 40 individual portions that must look identical and perform flawlessly under photography lights. My phone buzzes with a follow-up text. Forgot to mention, we'll need everything ready by 2 p.m. sharp for photos, then service at 3 p.m. so people can enjoy the garden afterward. Hope the earlier timeline doesn't complicate your prep schedule too much. Also, can you prepare a few backup desserts in case something goes wrong? Better safe than sorry. I screenshot Harriet's messages and forward them to my former colleague, Serafina Blackwood, the only person who truly understands both the technical complexity of what they're requesting and the professional value of my skills. She left restaurant work last year to start her own catering company after burning out on the industry's demanding schedule, and her response arrives within minutes of receiving my forwarded chaos. Gemma, this is absolutely insane. What they're describing would cost £12,000 minimum if they hired professionals, and that's assuming everything goes perfectly. The truffle course alone requires technique most home cooks don't possess, and chocolate sphere desserts for 40 people? That's a 2-day prep minimum with specialized equipment most restaurants don't even own. Her assessment hits like cold water on skin I didn't realize was burning. £12,000. The number represents more than my car is worth, more than most people spend on entire vacations, casually assigned to me like weekend homework with a smile and expectations of gratitude for the opportunity. My phone rings immediately, Serafina's voice carrying the incredulous tone of someone who's just witnessed professional sabotage disguised as family favor. Her background in high-end catering gives her perspective I've been lacking, the ability to translate amateur requests into professional reality. Please tell me you're not actually considering this, she says without preamble, her directness cutting through months of gaslighting that has made me question my own assessment of the situation. This isn't cooking for family, Gemma. This is providing free catering services to people who would never dream of asking a professional to work for expenses only. They don't see it that way, I explain, settling into our conversation like therapy I didn't know I needed. To them, it's just Easter dinner, and I'm family, so naturally I should want to contribute to making it special. Contribute? Serafina's voice rises with professional outrage that validates months of growing resentment I've been told to suppress. Gemma, you're not contributing. You're being systematically exploited by people who've convinced themselves that your expertise has no monetary value because you happen to be related through marriage. The word exploited hits differently when someone with industry experience uses it. Not overreacting, not being dramatic or ungrateful, but accurately describing a pattern I've been too emotionally invested to recognize clearly. Let me put this in perspective for you, Serafina continues, her voice taking on the educational tone she uses when explaining industry standards to potential clients. Last month, I quoted a similar event for a corporate client: 40 guests, 6 courses, dietary accommodations, restaurant quality presentation, £15,000, plus 20% gratuity, plus they provided serving staff and cleanup crew. What your sister-in-law is requesting would cost significantly more because of the technical complexity and specialized equipment requirements. £15,000. The number sits in my mind like a price tag on labor they've casually assigned to me while discussing it like an honor I should appreciate. More than some people earn in 6 months, expected to be provided for free, plus my own financial contribution to ingredients. And they want it photographed for a magazine? Serafina's voice carries the kind of professional indignation I've been afraid to express. So they'll get publicity value and social media content from your work, while you get nothing but the privilege of paying for ingredients and losing a weekend to unpaid labor. I describe the guest list, the food critic from The Telegraph, the retired judge whose opinion influences local social hierarchy, the business connections who will determine Miles' career advancement, people who will taste my cooking and remember the Sinclair family as sophisticated hosts with excellent taste, never knowing the meals were prepared by someone with formal training and professional aspirations.
This is career suicide disguised as family obligation, Serafina says, with the bluntness that comes from watching too many talented people sacrifice their ambitions for relationships that don't value their abilities. You're providing professional-level services that will benefit everyone except you. Meanwhile, Le Bernardin is still waiting for your response to a position that would establish you as one of London's premier chefs. Le Bernardin. I'd mentioned the offer to Serafina weeks ago, swearing her to secrecy while I decided whether leaving England was worth disrupting the life Miles and I have built together. A decision that seemed impossible when I thought our marriage was worth preserving, but looks increasingly obvious as I document the systematic exploitation disguised as family tradition. Take the London position, she says, with the certainty of someone who's watched too many talented chefs sacrifice their ambitions for people who don't understand their value. These people will never see you as anything other than convenient free labor. The restaurant industry will pay you what you're worth and credit you for what you create. But Miles will either support your professional success or reveal that he values his family's convenience more than your career. Either way, you'll have clarity about what your marriage is actually worth. After we hang up, I sit in my kitchen surrounded by the specialized equipment they assume I acquired by accident, looking at requests that would challenge a professional restaurant staff, designed by people who think cooking is a hobby rather than a career requiring years of training, significant financial investment, and expertise worthy of respect and compensation. The weekend brings a new level of coordination that feels more like military planning than family dinner preparation. Harriet has created a shared WhatsApp group called Easter Excellence that pings constantly with updates, changes, and additional requirements delivered with the casual cheerfulness of someone who's never had to execute their own demands. Saturday, 6:23 a.m. Good morning, everyone. Just remembered Mother's bridge partner has a severe nut allergy, like hospital-level severe. Can we make sure absolutely nothing contains traces? I know it's complicated, but you're so thorough with these things, Gemma. Maybe use separate everything? Cross-contamination protocols for a severe allergy means separate prep areas, dedicated equipment sets, ingredient sourcing that requires calling suppliers to verify every component down to shared facility warnings. What was already a complex menu just became a medical liability, requiring the kind of protocols professional kitchens spend months implementing. Saturday, 11:47 a.m. Update from the flower consultation. The photographer from Tatler confirmed she'll arrive early to capture the entire prep process. So exciting to document our family traditions in action. She wants to do a time-lapse of the cooking process. Apparently, watching skilled hands create art is very trendy right now. You don't mind being filmed while you work, do you? It'll be such beautiful content. They want to photograph me working, like I'm part of the entertainment, not the person whose expertise is making their social ambitions possible. Time-lapse footage of professional techniques for magazine content that will credit the Sinclair family's hospitality traditions, while I remain an anonymous pair of hands in their kitchen. Saturday, 2:15 p.m. Henry found the most amazing vintage champagne for the toast. Krug Grand Cuvée, only 180 pounds per bottle, and will need at least 8 bottles for proper service. Split 5 ways comes to $288 each. Totally manageable. The sommelier said it's what they serve at Michelin-starred establishments. Perfect for our sophisticated guests. Another $288 added to my portion of costs they've decided I can afford without consultation. I'm not just providing free labor, I'm subsidizing their performance of wealth for people whose opinions matter to their social standing. Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Slight change to the guest list. The Watsons are bringing their daughter Ruby, who's just returned from culinary school in Lyon. She's apparently quite the food expert and is excited to see authentic French technique in a home setting. No pressure. I'm sure she'll be impressed by your natural talent. A culinary school graduate will be evaluating my techniques while I work without proper professional support. Someone trained to recognize the difference between amateur efforts and professional execution, attending an event where I'm expected to deliver restaurant-quality results using home equipment.
Miles, meanwhile, has thrown himself into wine selection with the enthusiasm of someone whose contribution requires nothing more than online research and credit card transactions. He emerges from his study Sunday evening with printed pairing notes, vintage charts, and the satisfied expression of someone who's completed a challenging project. I found the perfect wines for each course, he announces, spreading his research across our dining table like a sommelier presenting a masterclass. The Sancerre will complement your appetizer course beautifully. It has the minerality to handle truffle without competing. And I've sourced a 2015 Burgundy that should elevate the lamb to restaurant standards. The tannin structure is perfect for your cooking style. Restaurant standards, your cooking style. He uses these phrases like he's discovered them, not realizing I've been working to professional standards for years, while he assumed I was playing house with expensive ingredients. This is going to be incredible, he continues, his voice carrying genuine excitement about an event where his role involves spending money, while mine involves 3 days of intensive labor that could literally hospitalize someone if I make a mistake. The whole family's talking about how impressed everyone will be. Harriet's beside herself with excitement about the magazine coverage. Impressed with them, their sophisticated tastes, their elegant hosting, their refined social circle. I'll be in the kitchen ensuring their success while they accept compliments for my work, pose for photographs with food I created, and build social capital from expertise they've never acknowledged as valuable. That night, while Miles sleeps soundly beside me, satisfied with his wine research contribution, I receive a text from an unknown number that makes my chest tight with possibility and timing complications. Miss Clements, this is Chef Auguste Dubois from Le Bernardin, London. We're hoping to finalize our executive chef decision by week's end. Your portfolio and kitchen demonstration have us genuinely excited about what you could bring to our opening. The board was unanimous in their enthusiasm for your technical skill and creative vision. Would you be available for a call tomorrow to discuss timeline and transition details? We're prepared to expedite our usual onboarding process for the right candidate. I stare at the message in the darkness of our bedroom, watching Miles' peaceful breathing while my phone glows with opportunity that feels increasingly urgent. 8 weeks until Le Bernardin's opening, 3 weeks until Easter, a decision point approaching faster than I'd anticipated, while 40 people prepare to judge my skills, and my husband's family prepares to claim credit for work they've never valued enough to compensate. I type and delete responses for 20 minutes before settling on, I'm very interested in discussing the position. Would Tuesday afternoon work for a call? The reply comes within minutes. Perfect. Looking forward to speaking with you about your future with us. This could be exactly the partnership we've all been hoping for. Tuesday afternoon finds me in my car outside the local Waitrose, speaking to Chef Dubois while Harriet's shopping list burns a hole in my handbag like evidence of a crime I haven't decided whether to commit. His voice carries the authority of someone who's built careers in kitchens where excellence isn't negotiable, where talent is recognized and compensated accordingly, where the word chef means something more than someone who cooks for their family. Your portfolio speaks for itself, Miss Clements, he says, his slight French accent lending weight to words that feel like validation I've been starving for without realizing the depth of my hunger. The techniques you've mastered, the innovation in your flavor profiles, your understanding of classical foundations combined with modern applications, this is exactly what we need for our London opening. He outlines the position with the precision of someone who understands that real chefs need real details, not vague promises of creative freedom. My own kitchen brigade of 12 trained professionals, menu development authority that extends beyond accommodating random dietary restrictions mentioned via text message. Suppliers who source ingredients most restaurants can only dream of accessing, heritage breed meats, dayboat fish, vegetables harvested hours before service. The salary is $180,000 annually, plus profit sharing that typically adds another $40,000 to $60,000 in the first year depending on performance metrics. Full relocation package, including temporary housing and permanent flight assistance, of course, and we'll handle all visa paperwork if needed. £240,000 potential earnings, more than Miles makes even in his best years, with creative control I've never experienced, and professional recognition that extends far beyond whoever happens to taste my food at family gatherings. Recognition in industry publications that matter to people who understand what we do, James Beard Award eligibility, Michelin star potential. We'd need you to start in 6 weeks, he continues, his timeline aggressive but achievable for someone ready to prioritize professional opportunity over family convenience.
I know it's compressed, but we're opening in 8 weeks and need our executive chef embedded in the development process from the beginning. Menu testing, staff training, supplier relationship establishment. It's intensive, but exactly the kind of challenge that builds legendary careers. 6 weeks, 2 weeks after Easter. While the Sinclair family is still posting Instagram photos of the meal I'm supposed to prepare for free, I could be establishing myself among London's culinary elite in a kitchen where my expertise is valued rather than exploited. I understand this represents a significant life decision, Chef Dubois says, mistaking my silence for hesitation rather than mental calendar calculations. Perhaps you'd like to visit our test kitchen, see the space, meet the team, understand what we're building together. That would be wonderful, I hear myself saying, the words emerging with certainty that surprises me. When would work? Tomorrow, if you're available. We're testing spring menu concepts all week, and I'd love your input on flavor development. Consider it a working interview. We'll pay you consultant rates for the day, of course. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Harriet's WhatsApp group has been buzzing about menu finalization deadlines and ingredient ordering timelines. They expect my complete attention devoted to planning their social triumph, while 40 minutes away, a Michelin-starred kitchen wants to pay me for my opinion on menu development. I'll be there, I say, feeling something shift inside my chest like a door opening after years of being locked. After we hang up, I sit in the Waitrose car park looking at Harriet's shopping list through new eyes. Truffle oil, specialty flowers, organic lamb from a specific farm in Wales that costs 3 times the price of regular lamb. Ingredients for a meal that will benefit everyone except the person preparing it, paid for partially by someone who could be earning a salary that makes these grocery bills irrelevant. My phone buzzes with another message from the Easter Excellence Group. Harriet has sent photos from her flower arrangement consultation, elaborate displays that will frame my food for magazine photography, while I remain anonymous in the kitchen, credited only as part of the family's sophisticated entertaining traditions. Absolutely gorgeous centerpieces, Angel has responded with enthusiasm that makes me wonder if she's ever considered who will be too busy cooking to appreciate the flowers. The photographer will get such beautiful shots of our table. The magazine feature is going to be stunning. Our table, my food, their credit, their social media content generated by techniques I've spent years perfecting, equipment I've purchased with my own money, and expertise they've convinced themselves has no monetary value because I happen to be related through marriage. I screenshot the conversation and add it to my growing documentation folder, a digital archive of exploitation disguised as family tradition. Then I drive home without buying a single item from Harriet's list, my mind already planning tomorrow's outfit for a professional kitchen where people understand that expertise deserves recognition rather than assumption. Tomorrow, I'll see what a kitchen looks like when the people running it understand that talent requires respect, compensation, and credit for achievements. Tonight, I'll let them wonder where their convenient resource has disappeared to and why their perfectly planned timeline might be experiencing unexpected complications. Wednesday morning's visit to Le Bernardine's test kitchen feels like stepping into an alternate reality where my skills are valued rather than taken for granted. The space gleams with professional equipment I've only dreamed of accessing. Induction cooktops that respond instantly to temperature adjustments, blast chillers that can set delicate mousses in minutes, immersion circulators for sous vide precision, and a pass where every plate emerges looking like art destined for magazine covers. Chef Dubois introduces me to the team with the respect reserved for equals, not family members being assigned chores. This is Gemma Clements, whose portfolio impressed us enough to fast-track this interview process. She might be joining us as executive chef for our London opening.
Might be joining. The conditional feels surreal after years of being told what I will be cooking, when, and for whom, without regard for my preferences or professional aspirations. The kitchen test is everything I hoped and more challenging than I expected. They present me with mystery ingredients and ask me to design a dish that showcases technique while honoring the product. I find myself working with uni so fresh it tastes like ocean air, microgreens I've never seen before that add peppery complexity, and a truffle oil that costs more per bottle than Harriet's entire flour budget. The team watches with genuine interest as I work, asking questions about my technique choices, offering suggestions that feel like collaboration rather than judgment. When I explain my approach to flavor layering, they nod with understanding that comes from shared professional language. 2 hours later, I present a deconstructed seafood composition that draws from molecular gastronomy techniques I've been practicing in secret. The kitchen goes quiet as they taste, then erupts in the kind of professional appreciation that makes my chest tight with recognition I've been missing. "This is exactly what we're looking for," Chef Dubois says, his satisfaction evident in the way he studies my plating. Innovation rooted in classical technique, presentation that tells a story, flavors that surprise without shocking the palate. When can you start? The drive home takes 40 minutes, but it feels like traveling between worlds. From a kitchen where my expertise is celebrated to a house where it's expected to serve other people's ambitions without acknowledgement or compensation. Miles is waiting in our driveway when I arrive, his face carrying the particular expression he wears when his family's needs aren't being met efficiently enough, the same look he gets when client deadlines conflict with his personal schedule. "Harriet's been calling," he says before I've even shut the car door. "Apparently, you didn't respond to her messages about ingredient ordering. She's worried about timeline delays affecting the overall coordination." Timeline delays, as if I'm a contractor falling behind schedule rather than someone who might have other priorities, other professional commitments that don't revolve around his family's social calendar. "I had an appointment," I say, which is technically true. "What kind of appointment takes priority over Easter planning?" His voice carries genuine confusion, as if he can't imagine what in my life could be more important than serving his family's social ambitions. "The whole family is counting on you." Inside, I find 7 missed calls from Harriet and a text message that makes my blood pressure spike so quickly I have to sit down. "Gemma, darling, I've taken the liberty of ordering all the specialty ingredients since time is getting tight, and I know how busy you are. I put everything on my card, but obviously you'll reimburse me. Total came to £847, which seemed quite reasonable for the quality we're aiming for. I've attached the itemized receipt. Let me know when you can transfer the money. The supplier needs payment confirmation by tomorrow. Can't wait to see your magic in action." £847. She's committed me to spending nearly £1,000 on ingredients for a meal I never agreed to prepare, using my apparent silence as consent to make financial decisions on my behalf. The audacity is breathtaking. The itemized receipt arrives via email while I'm still processing the financial violation. White truffle shavings at £200 per ounce, enough for 40 appetizer portions that she expects to be generous but not ostentatious. Wagyu beef she somehow decided would be better than the lamb originally discussed at $18 per portion. Microgreens at $15 per container, the same varieties I worked with this morning, except these are for unpaid family labor instead of professional recognition. Saffron threads, vanilla beans from Madagascar, aged balsamic vinegar that costs more than most people's weekly grocery budget. Each item represents ingredients I would choose for a professional menu, but sourced without consulting me about preparation methods, cooking preferences, or menu integration. The final item makes my hands shake. Specialized molecular gastronomy kit, $180. Includes agar-agar, sodium alginate, calcium chloride, precision scales, and spherification spoons. Perfect for those dramatic presentations you're so good at.
She's purchased equipment for techniques she doesn't understand, expecting me to master molecular gastronomy overnight for her entertainment. Equipment that requires training to use safely, practice to master, and understanding of chemical interactions that can ruin entire dishes if mishandled. My phone buzzes with another message. Also, ordered backup proteins in case anything goes wrong. Better safe than sorry. Added another £200 to the total, but I know you understand the importance of having contingencies. Professional caterers always have backups, right? Professional caterers. She's finally acknowledged what this is, professional catering services, while simultaneously treating me like free labor who should be grateful for the opportunity to showcase my natural talents for her social advancement. Thursday morning brings an unexpected encounter at the village butcher shop, where I've gone to inspect the Wagyu beef Harriet ordered without consulting me about cooking preferences, preparation techniques, or the fact that Wagyu requires completely different handling than traditional beef. The shop owner, Cornelius Ashworth, has been serving the village for 30 years and knows every family's dinner habits better than they know themselves, observing social dynamics through grocery orders with the shrewd assessment of someone who understands how food reveals character. "Ah, Mrs. Sinclair," he greets me, with the familiarity of someone who's watched our family dynamics play out through their purchasing patterns over the years. "Hear about the Wagyu order, I assume. Quite an ambitious Easter plan your sister-in-law has described to half the village." My stomach drops like an elevator with cut cables. "She's discussed the menu with you?" "Oh yes, came in Tuesday afternoon with very specific instructions and enough enthusiasm to power the village generator." His weathered face carries the particular concern of someone who's seen too many holiday disasters planned by people who confuse ambition with capability. Once the beef prepared for 40 people mentioned something about molecular gastronomy techniques and professional-level presentation. I had to ask, does she understand the complexity of what she's requesting? He trails off, studying my expression with the shrewd assessment of someone who's learned to read people through decades of customer service, watching families navigate everything from birthday parties to funeral receptions through their food orders. "She's not the one cooking," I say quietly, my voice barely audible above the hum of refrigeration units. Ah, the single syllable carries volumes of understanding, the recognition of a pattern he's probably observed in other families, where ambition and execution are handled by different people. That would be you then. I wondered when she mentioned techniques I'd only heard about from professional kitchens and cooking shows. Cornelius disappears into his storage area and returns with samples of the beef Harriet ordered, unwrapping packages that represent more money than most families spend on groceries in a month. The marbling is exquisite, the kind of product that requires precise temperature control and timing that leave no room for error or inexperience. 1 degree too high and 600 pounds worth of meat becomes an expensive disappointment that can't be fixed or replaced on Easter Sunday. "Between you and me," he says, lowering his voice though we're alone in the shop, "I've been serving this village for 3 decades, and I've never seen Mrs. Harriet Sinclair cook anything more complex than boiled eggs. But she spoke about this meal like she was planning a state dinner, going on about magazine photographers and important guests who would be judging every detail. The validation feels like cold water on burns I didn't realize were still stinging. The village butcher sees what Miles can't, that Harriet treats my expertise like a resource she owns rather than a skill she should respect, assigning professional-level work while taking credit for sophisticated entertaining. She mentioned the photographer specifically," Cornelius continues, wrapping the samples with the careful attention of both the product and the customer. "Said something about documenting the family's entertaining traditions for publication, seemed very excited about the publicity potential and social media opportunities. My traditions, my techniques, their publicity. Content created from skills I've developed over years of training, using equipment I've purchased with my own money, for recognition that will benefit everyone except the person whose expertise makes it possible."
The thing is, he adds, his tone carrying the delicate diplomacy of someone who's learned to navigate village politics without causing offense, she also mentioned that you'd be handling all the preparation alone for 40 people with complex dietary restrictions and professional presentation expectations. He pauses, studying my face. "In my experience, that's not entertaining, that's catering." The word hits like a diagnosis I've been avoiding. Not cooking for family, not contributing to traditions, not sharing my natural talents for the greater good. Providing professional catering services disguised as domestic obligation, work that deserves compensation and recognition rather than assumption and exploitation. Professional caterers charge accordingly, he continues, his voice carrying the matter-of-fact tone of someone stating obvious truths. They have teams, proper equipment, insurance, and compensation that reflects the skill required, what you're being asked to do. He shakes his head with the expression of someone who's watched restaurants struggle with less ambitious menus. I've seen professional kitchens with full staff struggle to execute what she's describing.
And she expects it all for free, I say, the words emerging like confession. That's what troubles me most, Cornelius admits, his honesty cutting through months of gaslighting that has made me question my own assessment of the situation. Professional work deserves professional recognition. Family relationship doesn't change the value of expertise or the amount of labor involved. I leave the butcher shop with samples of beef I never ordered and validation from someone who has no agenda beyond honest observation. The village sees what my husband's family refuses to acknowledge. They've assigned me work that deserves professional recognition and compensation, then convinced themselves it's just family dinner that should be provided with gratitude rather than resentment. The drive home feels different, like I'm seeing our village through new eyes that notice things I've been trained to overlook. Other families making reasonable requests of local businesses, planning celebrations that match their abilities and budgets, treating service providers with respect that acknowledges the value of expertise and labor. What I'm experiencing isn't normal family dynamics. It's systematic exploitation disguised as tradition, professional-level demands masked as holiday celebration, work that would challenge restaurant teams assigned to someone whose only qualification is marriage into a family that confuses access with ownership. Friday evening brings the discovery that transforms months of exploitation into something far more personal and devastating. I'm organizing our pantry when I notice something missing from the top shelf, where I keep my most precious culinary tools, secured in protective cases that maintain their condition. My grandmother's copper saucepans, the complete set she brought from her restaurant in Lyon when she immigrated to England in 1962, fleeing the aftermath of Algeria's independence with nothing but her professional skills and the tools of her trade. 18 pieces of hand-hammered copper that seasoned with 6 decades of professional use, each pot carrying the weight of family history, culinary tradition, and a woman's determination to rebuild her life through cooking. They're not just missing. I find them in our sink, soaking in harsh commercial detergent that's stripping the carefully maintained patina, with color-coded sticky notes attached to each handle in Harriet's precise handwriting. H. Truffle sauce base. A. Chocolate tempering pot. H. Reduction vessels. G. Molecular prep. She's appropriated my grandmother's professional cookware and assigned specific uses for Easter dinner preparation, treating irreplaceable family heirlooms like borrowed restaurant equipment. The copper that took decades to develop its perfect cooking surface is being damaged by cleaning methods that show complete ignorance of proper care, cultural significance, or monetary value. The patina is everything with copper cookware. It's the accumulation of thousands of cooking sessions, the chemical bonding between metal and use that creates unparalleled heat distribution and temperature control. Grand Mère spent 30 years developing the seasoning on these pots through daily professional use in her restaurant kitchen. What I'm looking at represents the systematic destruction of irreplaceable culinary heritage. The patina is everything with copper cookware. It's the accumulation of thousands of cooking sessions, the chemical bonding between metal and use that creates unparalleled heat distribution and temperature control. Grand Mère spent 30 years developing the seasoning on these pots through daily professional use in her restaurant kitchen. What I'm looking at represents the systematic destruction of irreplaceable culinary heritage. Miles finds me standing at the sink, holding the 8-inch saucepan that Grand Mère used for her signature sauce béarnaise, its interior now clouded from chemicals that should never have touched the metal. The pot feels lighter somehow, as if part of its essential character has been washed away. "What's wrong?" he asks, genuinely puzzled by my expression of horror and grief. "Harriet took my grandmother's copper," I say, my voice barely steady as I assess the damage. "She's been soaking them in commercial detergent. Look at what she's done to the patina." "That's wonderful that she wants to honor Grandmère's memory by using her pots," he says, completely missing the violation occurring in front of him. "I'm sure your grandmother would love knowing her cookware is being used for family celebrations. It's better than them sitting unused on a shelf." Honor her memory by ruining cookware that represents 6 decades of professional pride, immigrant determination, and culinary mastery with improper cleaning and careless handling that shows no understanding of their significance.
These pans require specific care, Miles. You don't soak them in commercial detergent. The patina she's destroying took 30 years to develop properly. This is like taking a vintage violin and scrubbing it with steel wool. He looks at me like I'm having an emotional breakdown over kitchen equipment rather than watching family history being destroyed by someone who sees professional tools as decorative props available for her convenience. They're just pans, Jem. I'm sure Harriet will be careful with them. She knows they're important to you. Just pans. The copper that taught me temperature control through touch, that helped me understand how proper equipment elevates technique, that connected me to a grandmother who built her own culinary career in an era when women weren't welcome in professional kitchens. The tools that survived war, immigration, decades of professional service, and careful preservation through 3 generations. I carefully lift each piece from the sink, assessing the damage with the expertise Grandmère taught me. The smaller saucepan she used for delicate hollandaise shows white spots where the copper has been exposed to acid from the harsh detergent. The stock pot that held countless batches of consommé has lost the deep bronze color that indicated proper seasoning and optimal heat distribution. The 8-quart rondeau that Grandmère used for her famous coq au vin shows the worst damage, patches where the patina has been completely stripped, exposing raw copper that will now require months of careful reseasoning to restore proper cooking properties. I need to restore these immediately before they're damaged permanently, I say, gathering the pans with the careful urgency of someone handling injured family members. The longer the exposure continues, the more patina we lose. Can't that wait until after Easter? Miles asks, checking his watch like my grandmother's cookware operates on his family's social schedule. Harriet's probably planned her entire prep timeline around using them. She seemed so excited about incorporating authentic French techniques. There it is. My family heritage should wait because Harriet has made plans that require destroying it. The copper that represents my grandmother's professional legacy, my connection to culinary tradition, and irreplaceable family history should remain damaged because his sister finds it convenient for her social media-worthy Easter dinner? She can use other pots, I say, beginning the careful process of restoration that will take hours of precise work with specialized compounds. But these are so much more authentic for the French dishes you're preparing. Harriet specifically mentioned wanting to use Grandmère's copper for the historical connection. Historical connection, while systematically destroying the historical significance through ignorant misuse that reduces professional heirloom tools to Instagram props for her lifestyle blog content. I look at my husband, standing in our kitchen, surrounded by evidence of systematic disrespect for everything I value, and realize he's never going to understand why this matters. Saturday morning brings Chef Dubois' call while I'm carefully polishing the damaged copper with specialized restoration cream that costs more than most people spend on groceries. Each circular motion a meditation on value and respect that extends beyond mere cookware maintenance. His voice cuts through the domestic chaos like a lifeline thrown to someone drowning in other people's expectations, offering professional recognition at the exact moment when family exploitation has reached unbearable levels.
Miss Clements, I hope I'm not calling too early. We've completed our final interviews and board discussions, and I'm pleased to offer you the executive chef position at Le Bernardin London. The words hit me while I'm holding Grandmère's stockpot, its surface slowly returning to its proper bronze patina under careful restoration that honors rather than destroys culinary heritage. The symbolism isn't lost on me, rebuilding something precious while being offered the chance to build something entirely new that values rather than exploits expertise. The board was unanimous in their enthusiasm, he continues, his voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who's found exactly what they were searching for. Your technique demonstration, your innovation approach, your understanding of what we're trying to create in London, everything aligned perfectly with our vision. Frankly, we're thrilled. I set down the copper pot and walk to our kitchen window, looking out at the garden where Miles is consulting his printed wine lists with the focused attention of someone who believes selecting bottles online constitutes meaningful contribution to an event that will showcase my work while crediting his family's sophistication. We've had to adjust our timeline slightly, Chef Dubois explains, his tone carrying the urgency of someone operating in an industry where opportunity moves quickly. We'd like you to start in 4 weeks if possible. I know we initially discussed 6 weeks, but our soft opening has been moved up to early May, and we need our executive chef embedded in final preparations from the beginning. 4 weeks, 1 week after Easter Sunday. While the Sinclair family is still posting Instagram photos of the meal I'm supposed to create for their social media content, sharing images of food I prepared while they arranged flowers and selected wine, I could be establishing myself in London's most competitive culinary market, among chefs who understand that expertise deserves recognition. The compensation package has been finalized at £180,000 annually, plus profit sharing that typically adds £40,000 to £60,000 in the first year, depending on restaurant performance and personal metrics. Full relocation assistance, including 3 months of temporary housing while you find permanent accommodation, complete health benefits, and of course, absolute creative control over menu development and seasonal planning. £240,000 potential earnings, more than Miles makes even in his best years, with creative freedom I've never experienced and professional recognition that extends far beyond whoever happens to taste my food at family gatherings. Recognition in industry publications that matter to people who understand what we do, potential James Beard nominations, Michelin star consideration. There's also the opportunity for cookbook development and media appearances, he adds, his voice carrying excitement about possibilities I've never dared to imagine. Le Bernardin's executive chefs become industry leaders, not just restaurant employees. Your name on menus, your techniques featured in culinary magazines, your innovations discussed by professionals who appreciate the complexity involved in seemingly simple presentations. My name. Not the Sinclair family's entertaining traditions, not Miles' sophisticated taste in wives, not Harriet's eye for talent. My name, my techniques, my professional achievements credited to the person who actually created them. I understand this represents a significant life change, Chef Dubois says, his tone carrying the understanding of someone who's made similar career transitions and knows the emotional complexity involved. Perhaps you'd like the weekend to discuss with your family? We can finalize contracts early next week and begin the transition process immediately. Discuss with my family. The family that sees my expertise as a convenient resource rather than a professional asset worth respecting. The husband who thinks my grandmother's heirloom cookware is just pans that can wait for restoration until after his sister's social ambitions are satisfied. The sister-in-law who appropriates family treasures for her Instagram content while expecting me to provide free catering services for her magazine feature. Actually, I hear myself saying, the words emerging with clarity that surprises us both. I accept. The silence on his end lasts only a moment, filled with what sounds like genuine pleasure. Wonderful, truly wonderful. I'll have contracts prepared by Monday morning, and we can begin discussing transition logistics immediately. This is going to be an extraordinary partnership, Miss Clemens. We're building something special in London, and you'll be the heart of it.
After we hang up, I return to polishing copper that survived 6 decades of professional use in my grandmother's restaurant, now being restored by someone who's finally ready to honor the legacy it represents, rather than watch it be destroyed by people who see professional tools as convenient props for their social media content. Outside, Miles continues planning wine pairings for food I'll never cook, consulting charts and reviews with the enthusiasm of someone who believes his contribution is equal in value to 3 days of intensive professional labor. Inside, I polish family heirlooms I'll never leave unguarded again, making decisions that will honor my grandmother's professional legacy while building my own. The Le Bernardin contract represents more than a job offer. It's validation that my skills have value beyond serving other people's convenience, recognition that my expertise deserves compensation rather than exploitation, proof that somewhere in the world people understand the difference between professional talent and free family labor. Sunday morning arrives gray and bitter, with Miles sleeping peacefully beside me while I lie awake calculating the hours remaining until Easter Sunday.
7 days, 168 hours until I'm expected to single-handedly execute a meal that would challenge a professional restaurant staff, using ingredients I didn't choose, for guests I don't know, to benefit people who see my expertise as a family resource rather than a professional asset. The Easter Excellence WhatsApp group has been buzzing since 6 a.m. with final coordination messages that read more like military briefings than holiday planning. Harriet's excitement radiates through every exclamation point and emoji, her anticipation building toward an event where she'll receive credit for my work. At 8:30, Miles finally stirs, reaching for his phone with the automatic motion of someone whose first priority involves checking messages rather than acknowledging the person beside him. "Morning, love," he murmurs, already scrolling through emails. "Big day today, family brunch at Mother's to finalize everything." Family brunch, another meal I'll be expected to prepare while they discuss plans for the meal I'll be expected to prepare next weekend. The recursive nature of their expectations would be amusing if it weren't so exhausting. "Actually," I say, my voice carrying a calm that surprises us both, "I won't be joining you for brunch today." Miles looks up from his phone with genuine confusion. "What do you mean? Mother's expecting everyone. We need to coordinate final details, taste the wine selections, make sure everything's perfectly planned." "I have other plans," I say simply. His face goes through several expressions: confusion, mild irritation, then the particular look he gets when his family's needs aren't being prioritized efficiently. What kind of plans could be more important than finalizing Easter dinner? There it is, the assumption that has defined our entire relationship, that nothing in my life could possibly be more significant than serving his family's social ambitions. "Important ones," I reply, watching him process the concept that I might have priorities beyond his convenience. "Gemma, you can't just skip family planning. Harriet's been coordinating this for weeks. Mother's prepared talking points about the menu, Henry wants to present his wine research, and everyone's expecting to hear your final timeline for preparation." My timeline for preparation of food I never agreed to cook, using techniques they don't understand to impress people whose opinions matter to them rather than me. "They can discuss it without me," I say, rising from bed with the calm efficiency of someone who's made decisions while others were sleeping. "I'm sure they'll manage perfectly well." Miles sits up, his phone forgotten, as he processes the unprecedented situation of me declining a family obligation. "Where are you going?" "London," I say, pulling clothes from our wardrobe with careful selection. Not weekend casual, but the kind of professional attire that speaks to serious business. "I have contracts to sign." The silence that follows feels infinite. Miles stares at me like I'm speaking a foreign language, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and the dawning realization that something fundamental has shifted in his perfectly ordered world. "What contracts?" he asks, his voice small in a way I haven't heard since his father's business failed during our second year of marriage.
I pause in selecting my shoes, looking at Miles with the clarity that comes from finally understanding the dynamic that's been suffocating me for months. He sits on the edge of our bed, still in his pajamas, looking like someone who's just discovered the rules of a game he thought he understood have fundamentally changed without notice. Le Bernardin London has offered me the executive chef position, I say, my voice carrying the calm authority of someone who's made irreversible decisions while others were sleeping. $180,000 annually, plus profit sharing that typically adds another $40,000, plus complete creative control over menu development and a team of 12 sous chefs. His face goes completely blank, like a computer processing incompatible information. The numbers don't compute with his understanding of my place in our life structure. Le Bernardin? The restaurant? He says it like he's trying to confirm we're discussing the same establishment, as if there might be some local cafe with a similar name that would make more sense in his worldview. The Michelin-starred restaurant chain that's opening a London location in 8 weeks. They want me to head their European expansion. I slip on the heels I wore to my kitchen test, the ones that made me feel like a professional rather than unpaid family labor. I start in 4 weeks. Miles stares at me like I've announced plans to join the space program or become a professional mountaineer, something so foreign to his understanding of who I am that his brain can't process the information within the context of our relationship. You can't be serious. We never discussed this. You can't just make unilateral decisions about our future without consulting me. His voice carries the indignation of someone whose authority has been bypassed by a subordinate. The hypocrisy is so perfect it almost takes my breath away. The same man whose family has been making unilateral decisions about my time, energy, and expertise for months is suddenly concerned about collaborative choice-making when it doesn't serve his convenience. Actually, I can, I reply, gathering my purse and the folder containing contracts that represent everything his family will never understand about my professional value. Especially when you've made it clear that our future isn't really a priority compared to your family's social calendar. That's not fair. You know how important you are to me. But his voice lacks conviction, like he's reciting lines from a script he's never fully believed. Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Easter dinner for your sister's Instagram content and magazine coverage is significantly more important than anything involving your actual wife's career aspirations. He stands up, his confidence returning as he prepares to deliver what I recognize as his closing argument, the same measured tone he uses during difficult client negotiations when he needs to reassert control over situations that have become inconveniently complicated. Gemma, you're being completely unreasonable about this. This is our family. These are our traditions. You can't just abandon Easter dinner because you're having some kind of professional crisis or midlife career fantasy. Professional crisis? Career fantasy? He's managed to reframe my executive chef offer from a Michelin-starred restaurant as a psychological breakdown, my expertise as a hobby that's gotten dangerously out of hand. If you can't support your family when they need you most, he continues, his voice taking on the measured cadence of someone delivering an ultimatum they expect to win, if you're going to prioritize some restaurant job over the people who love you, maybe we need to seriously reconsider whether this marriage is working. The silence that follows feels like the moment between lightning and thunder, when the whole world holds its breath, waiting for the inevitable crash. Our antique grandfather clock ticks away seconds of our marriage with mechanical precision, marking time until one of us acknowledges what we both suddenly understand. He's given me permission to end this charade with my dignity intact. Handed me an ultimatum disguised of a choice: submit to his family's version of reality where my expertise serves their convenience, or lose him entirely. Some restaurant, I repeat quietly, testing the words. Le Bernardin, one of the most prestigious restaurant groups in the world, an executive chef position that culinary school graduates spend decades hoping to achieve. It's just a job, Gemma. Family is forever.
Family is forever. The same family that treats my professional skills like a convenience store they can access without payment. The family that appropriates my grandmother's heirloom cookware for their social media content. The family that assigns me £15,000 worth of professional catering while calling it holiday tradition. I look him directly in the eyes, seeing clearly for the first time in months. The man standing in our bedroom wearing pajamas I bought him, surrounded by the life I've been building while he prioritized his family's convenience over our partnership. Someone who's so convinced of his own importance that he can't imagine I might have value beyond serving his needs. You're absolutely right, I say, my voice carrying a calm that surprises us both. This marriage isn't working. His face transforms through a fascinating sequence of expressions. Confusion first, like he's mishearing my words. Then alarm, as he realizes this wasn't the script he'd written in his head. He'd expected tears, accusations, maybe even a dramatic scene he could later describe to his family as evidence of my emotional instability and his justified need for support from people who understand him better. What he hadn't expected was agreement. Calm, rational, immediate agreement that his ultimatum makes perfect sense. Wait, he says, his confident negotiation stance faltering as he realizes he's overplayed his hand. We should talk about this properly. We just did, I reply, moving toward our bedroom door with the decisive efficiency of someone who spent months preparing for this moment without realizing it. You were very clear about your priorities, and now I'm being clear about mine. Miles' face goes through fascinating changes. Confusion first, like a computer processing conflicting information, then alarm as he realizes this wasn't the script he'd written in his head. He'd expected tears, accusations, maybe even a dramatic scene he could later describe to his family as evidence of my emotional instability and his justified need for support from people who understand him better. What he hadn't expected was agreement. Calm, rational, immediate agreement that his ultimatum makes perfect sense. Wait, he says, his confident negotiation stance faltering. That's not, we should talk about this properly. We just did, I reply, moving toward our bedroom door with the decisive efficiency of someone who spent months preparing for this moment without realizing it. You were very clear about your priorities, and now I'm being clear about mine. Miles' face goes through fascinating changes. Confusion first, like a computer processing conflicting information, then alarm as he realizes this wasn't the script he'd written in his head. He'd expected tears, accusations, maybe even a dramatic scene he could later describe to his family as evidence of my emotional instability and his justified need for support from people who understand him better. What he hadn't expected was agreement. Calm, rational, immediate agreement that his ultimatum makes perfect sense. Wait, he says, his confident negotiation stance faltering. That's not, we should talk about this. We just did, I reply, gathering my laptop and the contracts that represent everything his family will never understand about my value. He follows me downstairs, his footsteps quick and uncertain behind me. I can feel him watching as I move through our kitchen one final time, collecting the professional equipment I bought piece by piece while he assumed I was going through a phase. Gemma, wait. I didn't mean we should actually separate. I was just trying to explain how important it is for families to support each other. Support, the word that's been weaponized against me for months, used to make me question my priorities while ignoring obvious exploitation. Now it sounds hollow, meaningless. I do understand, I say, wrapping Grandmere's restored copper pens in protective cloth. That's why I'm choosing to support myself instead. My phone rings as I'm loading my car. Harriet's name flashes on the screen like a warning I no longer need to heed. I decline the call and watch it immediately ring again. Then again. The panic of someone who's just realized their unpaid labor source might not be as controllable as they assumed. The drive to London takes 2 hours, but it feels like traveling between worlds. From a village where my expertise was seen as a family resource, to a city where Michelin-starred restaurants compete for my signature on contracts. Les Bardins' London location gleams with possibility. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the Thames, while the open kitchen design ensures that every dish plated will showcase the chef who created it. No anonymous labor, no credit given to people who arranged flowers while I developed techniques they'll never understand. Chef Dubois greets me with the respect reserved for equals. Welcome to your kitchen, Chef Clements. Your kitchen. Not the family kitchen where I performed unpaid labor, but a professional space where my expertise will be recognized, compensated, and celebrated. 3 hours later, I'm boarding a flight to Paris for Les Bardins' flagship location training, my phone buzzing with increasingly frantic messages from the Easter Excellence Group. Harriet's panic, Angel's confusion, Henry's concern about wine pairings that will never happen.
Miles' final text arrives as the plane taxis. What am I supposed to tell everyone about Easter dinner? I type back while London shrinks below us. Tell them you're handling it. I'm sure you'll figure something out. The plane lifts off, carrying me toward a career that values what I create rather than exploits it. Behind me, a family discovers that expertise isn't a birthright, that talent requires respect, and that some people would rather choose themselves than continue serving others who refuse to see their worth. 40,000 feet above England, I finally understand what freedom tastes like.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.